Peace and blessings, everyone, and welcome to IG Live with Michael B. Beckwith. A couple of moments late, we had a little slight technical difficulty, but thank you for hanging in there. I'm going to be inviting Tina Lippert in our conversation of lifting the veil. We call it lifting the veil primarily because, as I've been teaching, we're in an apocryphal moment. One of the meanings for apocalypse is the veil is being lifted so that we can see what was previously being hidden. And so with all of the things that are erupting at this time around policing, around brutality, around the death of unarmed individuals, particularly black men, this has not been hidden from our community, but it's been hidden from the world. And now the world is waking up and seeing it. That's just one thing that's being made visible that was formerly invisible. We're going to have a good conversation with Tina Lippert, Hollywood veteran, award-winning actress who currently plays Aunt Vi on the critically acclaimed television drama Queen Sugar. She played over 100 characters in her long-standing career, including the CIA director on Scandal, the mother-in-law on Parenthood. She's equally accomplished behind the camera. She's the respected playwright of The Circle, author of The Little Book of Big Lies. That's a great book, by the way. A Journey into Inner Fitness, re-released by HarperCollins in 2018. I'm privileged to have written the foreword to this book. She's the CEO of Inner Fitness Project, an initiative committed to making the practices and benefits of inner fitness as familiar and well understood and actionable as those as physical fitness. You know what? She did her training at Agape. She became a licensed spiritual therapist there at Agape International Spiritual Center. So we're going to call her on right now. She sent a request, so we're looking for her. Oh, we went backwards. Hold on one second. That's it right there. Okay, Tina, hold on. We're going to bring you in just a second. We're looking for your name. There she is.
There we go.
Hey, Tina.
Hey, you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm so very well. I'm so happy to be
Let me
here
turn my
with you.
volume up a little bit.
Yeah, it's so nice to be here with you. How's my volume, and can you see me well?
I can see you. I can see that beautiful face and that beautiful smile, those beautiful teeth.
Right back at you. Right back at you.
Yeah. No, thank you for accepting the invitation. When I first started doing the IG Lives, I knew I was going to have Tina on. Tina on. So I thought this was a good time to do it. And so much is going on in the world. I gave your bio already in terms of who you are in Queen Sugar and who you were with Scandal and Parenthood.
I heard everything you said.
Did you heard everything? Inner Fitness.
Mm-hmm.
And practitioner. I mean, first of all, people need to know that we've known each other pre-Agape.
Pre-Agape.
Before Agape International.
We have known each other like when you were having conversations in your living room on Orange Drive.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Long before that very first, I actually have the wonderful memory and pleasure of being able to say that I attended the very first Agape Church service on 4th Street in Santa Monica.
November 30th, 1986.
I was in the audience. And what's really wonderful about that memory is that I mean, Agape attracts thousands of people now. It's a mega church now. And that first day, there were a lot of people that first day, but there weren't the numbers that came week after week after week. Agape started, I'm going to guess, I can be way off about the numbers for that very, very first service. But that first service had maybe 30 people at it.
The, the very the very first service had about 400 because that was like a lot of looky-loos coming and people celebrating us. But then after that, when the actual people started, then it was like 30, 40 people. It grew to 50 and
Yes.
then 60 and then 100. I remember when we broke 100. That was like a big deal. And then we got kicked out of the Santa Monica Bay Women's Club the
Yep.
very first month.
Yep.
And
You
we had
did.
to go to the Miramar Sheraton Hotel, and we were in a room there, about 50 people. Then we had to rent another room when we grew to 100, then 250, then 500, then 1,000.
Yeah.
And so then we moved a couple of times.
Yeah.
But yeah, but yeah, you were there then, and you were in those workshops. And you know what I appreciate about you is that you basically have done everything that you said you were going to do. I mean, you mapped it out in your mind. You developed the consciousness. You did the inner work. You did the outer work. And I can look back at Tina Lippert and everything that you said you were going to do in terms of your acting career,
Yeah.
in terms of your inspirational, the way you inspire people and teach people, you know, with inner fitness. You said you were going to do all of that back in the day. You described that to me.
Yeah.
And you've done it. And I just applaud you. I always smile when I hear Tina Lippert is doing something, you know, because
I love that. I love that. You know what I think is important in both of those stories, Michael, and you know, you might hear me, y'all that are on with us, you might hear me refer to him as Miguel, because for some reason, most of the time when I'm talking to Michael, I'm calling
yeah,
him Miguel.
I
Right?
always said Miguel. And sometimes, remember, we used to call you Tender Loving Tina?
Yes, 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 yes. And I still love that. So, but what I love in both of the stories, and I think that this is really important for people who are starting off on their journey, people who are in the middle of their journey, and people who are still reaching for something that they haven't yet attained or acquired. Both in your story, Agape is how old now? 30?
We're in our 34th year. We're going,
Okay.
yeah.
So Agape is 34 years old, and Agape is still growing. Agape is still doing that work necessary for it to become the kind of leading voice and presence in the world that is your vision. Me, there is so much going on in my life right this moment that was only a dream. And if I had given up at any moment, you know, because there's a lot of people who think, well, if I can't get this done in 5 years, then it's not for me. If I can't get this done in, 7 years, it's not for me. When what we want to do is tied to our hearts and purpose, then our job is to trust that our hearts and purpose are not going to let us down.
Absolutely.
And to truly stay the course, because there's not one beat right this moment in my life that literally, Miguel, from 2018, when HarperCollins reached out to me,
yes,
because they got a hold of my self-published book that, I didn't know how to market, but I knew that there was a lot of value in it. I am telling you that from the book to the play to children's books to scripts, things that that spirit was on me to do throughout my entire process of reaching for that vision that was calling me. All of that effort, even the times when I didn't know why I was doing any of what I was doing, all of that effort is being used.
Yes.
All of that, those seeds planted and creativity, creative moments that sprouted up as this, that, or the other, they're all being used. So let your hearts lead you. Your purpose is, it knows what it's doing. It knows where it's going. We just got to follow with faith.
Absolutely. Now, you're speaking obviously directly from your own personal experience, and your book, the little book of Big Lies, really breaks down a lot of your basis for inner fitness.
Yeah.
And tell us a couple of those lies that people may be unconsciously buying into.
Yeah.
That's preventing them from living the vision that's locked and loaded within their heart and soul. And these lies are insidious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are
So,
some of the most common lies?
okay. So one of the big ones is that something that you are dealing with or have dealing with right this moment, and have cyclically dealt with in the past, that thing, that burden, that what I call sacred torture, that thing is too big to ever truly change.
Mm.
And what we do is, because we find ourselves in these moments, these periods, because sometimes they're moments, but a lot of times these are periods of discontent, periods of upset, periods of having run into an issue that has been an issue for such a long time, and you thought that you had finally done the work necessary to not have to deal with this thing again. And then 6 months later, 3 years later, 10 years later, here it is right in your face again. And that really painful experience can be so overwhelming that it begins to bully us. And we feel like some pain lasts forever and there's nothing we can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
That is a big lie.
Right.
Because that pain is really the invitation. We can't change that wiring to that upset without that upset revisiting us and us responding to it differently. What happened when that thing stormed into our lives? We did not have the tools to hold on to our inviolable self.
Yes.
So instead of knowing that there's a part of us that can never be hurt, harmed, or endangered, as you say all the time, instead of us knowing that event, that abuse, that abandonment, that fear, that shame, whatever it was, it got stuck in our nervous system and
Right.
in our sense of identity.
Right.
And the only way that it can resolve itself is for it to come around. And this time you meet it with more self-love. You meet it with more ownership. You meet it with more purpose. You meet it with the intention of using it to make you whole, instead of feeling broken and failed once again.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the idea is not to resist it. The idea is to embrace it. And then in that embracing, with observation, with purpose, as you're saying, and intention, those thought forms and those perceptions, they become transmuted. They start to, they're malleable, they're changeable, they're not forever. And then you grow and expand in your awareness, and then you actually grow because of that event.
Absolutely.
It's like manure. It's like fertilizer for the expression of the next great vision and version of yourself. So it's a lie. The lie is that it's intractable and can't be changed. That's the lie.
Exactly. That's the lie.
Yeah,
that's the lie. And if we are holding that thought anywhere in our lives, it is a lie, and a lie unseen will distort us.
Right.
And
Right.
so one of the most important ways, the whole idea of self-care is being talked about a lot. But when it comes to inner fitness and self-care, it's about really, massages are nice, but
Mm-hmm.
self-care is about really stepping into a relationship with yourself, that no matter what your experience is, you experience yourself as perfect, whole, and complete. The word
This is
says,
so good.
yeah,
This is so good, Tina, because I like to always differentiate between pampering and self-care.
yes,
Getting
yes,
them,
yes,
self-care is really coming into an awareness that you're whole and complete. It's doing what is necessary for you to come back to a sense of balance, a sense of coherence, a sense of self-love, a sense of self-appreciation. Pampering is something different. And so,
absolutely.
yeah, so you really broke that down very well, that it's not just pampering. It's actually shifting your perception about yourself and
And
caring for yourself.
I'll give you a visual so that all of you who are with us can really walk away with this visual. When you think of self, begin to think of it with a capital S. SELF. We're not talking about the body. We're
Right.
talking about who you are on the interior, that mental, emotional, and spiritual you. That's your capital S. And when you start to value your capital S and see your capital S the way you see your precious child,
Mm-hmm.
and engage with that capital S as though it is your precious child,
Mm-hmm.
you will begin to respond to yourself in ways that a good parent, lover, friend would.
Absolutely. And then that's a glimpse of how the universal presence sees you.
Absolutely.
When you look at yourself the way you would look at that precious child, there's a lot of love and tenderness there, and a lot of care and compassion. And that's a glimpse into how we are seen spiritually anyway. We're not seen as problem children. We're seen as infinite potential waiting to escape
Yes.
and to reveal
Yes.
itself. So self-care gives us a glimpse into right relationship and right viewing of ourselves. What?
And when you speak to right relationship, you can then extrapolate and say, if in fact the I call it, God, whatever you call it, God, infinite self,
Millions of
whatever.
names.
It has many names, and it doesn't need a name,
Right.
all of that. But when you realize that attacking yourself
Hmm.
is literally a rejection of God.
Yes.
When
Yes.
you
Say
attack
that again. I think that's powerful. People need to hear that.
when you attack yourself, it is akin to a rejection of God.
Right. Right.
Because if in fact we are made in the image and likeness, and right where you are, God is, and the infinite intelligence, this always just blows my mind, Miguel. The infinite intelligence is so incredibly whole that
Yeah.
it has been able to structure the balance of everything that we know and see and that we don't know and can't see.
Right.
Its intelligence is so profound, and yet we step in and make assumptions like God isn't here with me in this case.
Now that's a
You know,
lie.
that's a lie.
Yeah.
That's an absolute lie.
Yeah.
um I'm not good enough is
Lie.
another lie,
Right.
because God don't make no junk.
Right.
So if God doesn't make junk, then what are you in this moment? And what you are is a opportunity to reach towards growth, so that more of the infinite, more of the inseparable presence of God can actually rise to the surface of your experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is, I hope everybody's grabbing this because you're dropping nuggets in a very powerful way. And we want individuals to leave this conversation with an expanded awareness that when we say the image and likeness of God, we not only share, our life is not only the image and likeness of God, we're emanations of the presence. And again, we're not talking about a magical man in the sky handing out gifts like Santa Claus. We're talking about a presence that's never an absence, that recreated itself as us, unique, distinct, individual expressions of the presence. And so this is, for those of you who are tuning into this, when you hear Tina say to attack yourself is akin to attacking this presence, you're attacking God's viewpoint of you.
That's right.
Because God doesn't see you as a problem.
God's perfection.
Right.
God's perfection.
Right.
God didn't make no junk.
And individuals who have been brought up in religions that would say that they are originally, they are a sinner, that's called abuse. That's called religious abuse. When someone is raised from the time they're a little kid up to an adult, that there's something inherently wrong with them, there's an original sin, there's an intrinsic error about their life, that's called abuse. And so self-care is eliminating that kind of abusive thought that we have about ourselves.
Yeah, I truly, you know, with the little book of Big Lies, there's, I talk about the surviving self, the thriving self, and the infinite self. And I think it's really important for people to, you know, at least just hear and hear and hopefully have an understanding of those three selves. Because if you recognize that that our nervous system has been developing for over 500 million years, and we as human beings, we have inherited the nervous system that starts building itself from a single cell amoeba.
Right.
So all that it has taken in 500 million years to survive a undefined and refining cosmos, undefined and refining ecosystem, it makes all the sense in the world that we would have, you know, a lot of survival instincts deeply embedded in our experience.
Right.
The fact that we are knee-jerk makes sense. The fact that we, you know, are distrusting, it makes sense up until now, because we now have access to a brain, the newest part of our brain, that allows us to see ourselves more objectively and actually discern between that surviving instinct and the, I call it thriving instinct.
But right, it's true.
But the thriving instinct is we have ownership of that as well. The thriving instinct, you can see it in your life when it's present and when it's not present. Anytime that we are in any movement, talking about the times that we're in, any and every movement towards evolution, towards success, towards a greater unfolding for the whole, is built on thriving principles. The principle of hope, the principle of curiosity, the principle of possibility,
yes,
the principle of an energetic that is determined to move forward.
Yes.
Anything that has us moving beyond or being curious beyond the conditioning of the surviving self is there as part of the thriving self energy pulling us forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like to teach people that once you become a growth-centric being,
yes,
when you wake up to grow, you wake up to become the next great vision and version of yourself, the universe through its law begins to support that movement. You're transcending, as you're saying, we transcend just the basic instinct to survive.
Yes.
And now you actually want to be a greater version of yourself. You want to give more of yourself. You want to share more of yourself. You get supported because that's the nature of the universe. It's always expanding. And now it gets to support you because you've come into an alignment with the underlying harmony of the universe. That's the outpicturing of the universal presence, the intelligence, the love, the beauty, the harmony, the order. So being growth-centric actually provides a level of safety as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It provides a level of safety, and it encodes within us automatic default purpose. Because the reason we want to grow is not for ourselves.
Little
We are
self,
part
right?
of a whole.
Yes.
So when we commit to being a wider portal, then something greater than our smallness, not to diminish us, but something greater than our smallness gets more room, more access to the world through our opening.
Absolutely.
So right?
Absolutely.
So our purpose is to grow.
Absolutely. That's what our purpose is. It's to
Our
grow,
purpose is to
to
grow.
constantly reflect the cosmos in a way that has never happened before, because we are unique expressions of the infinite. And there'll never be another Tina. There'll never be another Miguel. We are the only ones of ourselves.
It's true.
If we don't do us, they won't be done.
Yes. And check, you know, the part that's also exciting is that literally right this moment, we've got it backwards. Right this moment, the surviving self, you know, who is afraid of dying, who is afraid of losing the identity or the way in which it has come to know itself. The surviving self is always hovering over us, trying to keep us in the same box that it knows, because its job is literally to keep this flesh safe.
Absolutely.
That's it.
That's what the ego does.
That's it.
Keep this precious identity the way it's
Safe.
been formed, safe, and no change.
No change.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. Your ego, your surviving self. I like to use the term surviving self because literally you can begin to just in your everyday goings and comings and conversations see when you step into that sort of energy inside that's almost like drowning in the deep end of the pool.
Right.
You know, where you're fighting to win, you're fighting to blame, you're fighting to protect, you're fighting to prove, you're attacking, you need someone to validate you. It's like that kind of feeling,
You're treading water. You're in the
Yes.
hamster maze. You're in the hamster
Yes.
circle.
Yes. And so, you know, people have fallen into a very self-serving, small identity, thinking that this big thing called life is about them and about their, you know, dreams. You get to use your dreams for your purpose, which is to grow.
Right. And that's what the dream is for. Who you become in the process of going for the dream is more important than the dream itself.
That's the only reason we were given the opportunity to dream.
Absolutely.
So that we could step beyond, you know, these encapsulated ideas, right, and get to a greater experience, right, of who we truly are.
Right. One of the things that I said on Sunday was humanity is at its best when our introspective processes for self-transformation open up to right thinking and then right action, yes, to actually build the beloved community that we all want to live in.
That's right.
So we definitely have introspective transform ourselves, but it's for a larger purpose.
That's right.
It gets the inspiration from the presence so we can actually be about something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
That's when we as humanity are at our best.
I totally agree. And I actually think that what you've just said is part of the underlying issue with the state of the world right this moment and in this country. Because in this country, and hear me, those of you who are listening, we all have been taught to talk a talk that we don't walk. We all have been taught that. This country it was founded on a lot of wonderful ideas that are pulling us forward. But at the same time, it was real easy to, saddle up to a table and talk about your egalitarian thoughts, or your love of people, or your feelings about humanity and equality and all of that, and then get up from that table, just like people leave church on Sunday, and then go and be driven by a very small surviving self.
Right.
So as we human beings begin to be accountable to the capital S inside, that means we have to add to our thinking and add to our conversations with ourselves this simple phrase: if I tell myself the truth. If I tell myself the truth, if we become interested in telling ourselves the truth, then that is going to open up an opening where that we have been avoiding, that the ways in which we have been protecting our, again, ego and identity, the ways in which we have avoided, walking the talk, this whole never let them see you sweat society that we live in, all of that will be challenged just because you are beginning to say to yourself on the inside, if I tell myself the truth, what I really need to do is, what I really feel is, what's really going on is, because the self that knows is sitting inside looking for an outlet to help you move forward.
Yes. But we have to participate with it. It doesn't just happen, it happens just. And so when you talk about telling ourselves the truth, I think you're speaking of the capital T truth, not just opinions, but just, what's real for us, and what's real for us in this moment, and what's real for us at the level of the eternal moment as well.
Yes.
And breaking free from the lies that we tell ourselves.
It absolutely. And what it does more than anything is it gives us time with ourselves. When you're busy, never letting them see you sweat, when you're busy avoiding, when you've become comfortable with talking the talk and not necessarily walking the walk.
Right.
That means there's a level of conversation with yourself.
Right.
Honesty with yourself.
Right.
That muscle has atrophied.
Right.
And it needs your time and attention. It needs you to just think about yourself and what's true for you. As you begin to do that, you will meet up with feelings. You'll meet up with memories. You'll meet up with ways in which you know that you were playing too small. You'll, just because you want to be in alignment with yourself, you are used to always say, I'm sure you still say it, but that two things. You can't manifest beyond the level of your consciousness.
Right.
And there's the other one that I really wanted to say, just escaped my mind. But you have to call yourself forward and give yourself permission to act and be outside of the ways in which you have used yourself to survive.
Absolutely. And you know, you're bringing up a lot of things right now because, as you mentioned, we are living in a very interesting time right now, not just in the United States, but globally. Everything is up. And you know, I was saying in one of the services that for people of color, we have to do our inner work so well that we bump into the fact that we are luminous, beautiful, magnificent beings, and that though we may have been victimized, we're not victims. But we have to do the work
Absolutely.
so well that
Absolutely.
we throw away the identity of being a victim.
That's
We
right.
don't throw away the fact that we've been victimized, we've been
That's right.
abused, we've
That's
got
right.
lack of justice,
That's
you
right.
know, and all of those things have to be dealt with. The country has to walk its walk and in a way that justice and the deconstruction of racism happens. But as people of color or poor people, we have to do our inner work so well that we don't walk around thinking we're victims anymore,
That's right.
because that just
That's right.
perpetuates
That's
a
right.
whole dynamic from the survival self that we don't want.
That's right. That's right. So you just hit upon another lie that's in the little book of big lies, and that is that our circumstances dictate who we are.
Right.
You know, we have to know that there is an us, and then there are the circumstances.
Right.
And most times when it comes to circumstances, people conflate because they are going through this is how they identify. And you're saying, and I certainly say in the little book of big lies, no, you have to have a place where you, that part of you that is never hurt, harmed, nor in danger. I also say that you have to begin to cultivate a relationship with the idea that you are innately born creative, resilient, empowered to choose how you see a thing and
Yes.
respond to a thing whole and worthy. And
Yes.
as you are cultivating this identity, then this identity can be present with circumstances and not internalize the pain or the experience of the circumstances.
Right.
When you can meet your circumstances from a true and honest place of objectivity, and that just means knowing who you are,
Knowing who you are.
then you step into a relationship with those circumstances that what grow you.
There it is. And you're able to respond to the circumstances differently.
Absolutely.
You're able to be a game changer. You're able to transmute circumstances. You're pulled into right action. You don't deny the conditions or the circumstances, but you get the wisdom and the knowledge from your real self as to how to deal with them.
That's right.
So
That's,
that
that's right.
you're not only safe, but you're making a difference on the planet.
And you know, at the very, very least, and there's so much in what you just said, at the very least, then you realize that you don't have to take on the circumstances as your personal burden and identity.
Identity. That's the key right there. That's the key. That's the key for people who've been systematically left out
That's right.
of
That's right.
justice,
That's right.
opportunity. You can't take on that as your identity because that becomes your personal law.
Yes.
And your identity shapes your personal law or your use of the law. So we have to go in, get rid of those lies, deconstruct those lies within ourselves, and begin to see ourselves the way we are seen by the presence. And then our back is straight. The confidence, without denying the circumstance, we're able to be a change agent.
Yes.
In our own life and in the life of humanity. As
Yeah.
strong beings of light.
You know, I'm going to throw something out here that I so look forward to chatting with you about from this point forward, because we certainly won't be able to do it here. But it occurred to me just within the past week. It was like, you know, people are they're burdened by the idea that we've been in this for 401 years, right?
Yeah.
And there was something about that that just was, it just wasn't sitting right inside of me. And so I'm going to throw this out. And I'm completely, it's new. I'm completely open, but it's a perspective that I would like to share. We human beings, because of the surviving self, because of the ego and the way in which we, habitually see ourselves, we believe that, again, life is about us. So if life is about us, then, 400 years is an unacceptable, painful amount of time that speaks to our failure.
Right.
But what if, and Lord knows, this is not me giving a pass to any of what has happened. But what if we go all the way back, ideas of supremacy have been activated and impacting people's lives since before Christ. So we're talking about an idea of oppression and subjugation that for self-serving gain, you always attach to money and power in some way.
Absolutely. I mean, the country was built on it.
And we're talking about this going back to the ancient Greeks.
Yes.
And then that mindset got transported over here, and it morphed into an even more refined system called racism.
Right.
And if in fact everything is connected, if there is a holistic thing happening, and what happens over here impacts everything, then what we're really looking at is that Black Americans, African Americans who are here in this country with a legacy of slavery, that means that since Juneteenth, 1865, that's only 155 years ago, we have actually put a dent in this whole system of supremacy, this whole system, these erroneous ideas about race, or not race, but supremacy.
Right.
Because it then became race.
Right.
These ideas about supremacy that date back before Christ.
Right.
That's 3,000, more than 3,000 years, a 3,000-year-old mindset.
Right.
That has been upset, that has holes in it.
Right.
That globally people are beginning to see it for more of what it is.
Right.
That's what we have accomplished in 155 freaking years.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah. You're speaking my language in a very powerful way, on two levels. One, people might remember Lyndon Johnson as president many years ago, and they had something called the Kerner Report, in which they did this long research project on African Americans in America, from the time and when we landed in Virginia and up to that present moment. And the report came back. I'll just summarize it. The report came back and said that based on the systemic racism, Jim Crow, lynching, mass incarceration, abuse, Black people should not even exist in America. It said we shouldn't even exist. And then we should be more like the Native Americans, how they were almost wiped out.
Yes.
He said, however, not only do we exist, we've excelled in every area of society: athletics, music, medicine, science, education, and they can't figure out why. So it goes to what you're saying, that because of that, our intrinsic creative nature, we have put a dent in it. Doesn't mean that the work is over.
Oh, no.
What we're looking at in the streets right now means that we're about to push the needle again.
That's right.
and have
It
reform
has to
and
come.
justice
It
and
has to come
change.
back around, right?
Yeah,
It has to come back around so that
go
we
up.
can respond to it, right,
Right.
from a higher level. From
Right.
a
This is the deep conversation. We're going to have to come back on again because, this is what you're reminding me of. When I attended Morehouse College, one of the first lectures that I had, it was a mandatory lecture by a man by the name of Howard Washington Thurman. Dr. Thurman gave the school, the freshmen had to attend, but everybody, was invited. And his topic was the benefit of slavery.
Yeah.
I'm 17 years old.
Yeah.
Sitting in the third row with my boys. I'm saying, well, we got to go hear this, man. What's he talking about, the benefits of slavery? And he went on to talk about this mindset of an African individual that had both hemispheres developed because the survival instinct was not as high as the thriving instinct. I'm using your language here. There was rivers, there was mountains, there was food. It wasn't like coming out of the ice ages or something. It was a different mindset. That mindset was then created, the African, the Africans all around the world with a particular mindset of compassion, forgiveness, creativity for such a time as this.
Thriving.
To actually be around the world and hold a particular space as an innate way of being.
Yes.
So when we talk about putting a dent, and we talk about that African that came here that thought a little bit differently,
yes.
I'm not saying that God created that, but I'm saying that the benefit of that
yes.
has put a dent in what you're saying, racism. Racism is how someone thinks about us. Justice is how someone treats us. So the justice system has been built upon a racist model that
yes.
treats poor people, brown people, black people a little bit differently. But I will say, in the midst of everything that's going on, I have to embrace what you're saying, that a dent has been put in it. Mm-hmm. And the Kerner report spoke to it. And now we're pushing the needle.
Absolutely.
All the protests, the protests aren't black protests.
Well,
the protests are worldwide, global
exactly
protests
right.
saying this way of living has to stop. Racism must be deconstructed. Justice must be for all. Lady Justice must stop peaking and say, oh, that's a brown person. They get a different justice than a white person.
America must walk the talk that it has talked so compellingly that peoples around the world believe in the kind of democracy that we talk about.
Right.
And we must tell ourselves the truth. We must do our work in order to be the leaders that we can be. And we must demand a level of accountability to, just the idea of if in fact the Greeks, and going back to Israel and just all of the ways in which it has been proliferated across human consciousness.
Right.
There is this better than superiority. We, through racism, Black and brown people in this country are poking holes into that whole system, not just racism. Because the only reason racism exists is because it's a really good front for the real agenda of power and subjugation.
Right. It was the justification.
Yes.
In order to treat a person a certain way, they had to say they were less than human and they were inferior. So just like we can work a horse all day long, we can work a black man all day long because they're not really human. Matter of fact, in the Constitution, we were 3/5 human, and we had to have an amendment to actually say that we were fully human. So so racism was a justification for the treatment and the misuse of a group of people that built the wealth of this country, because you had the main source not getting paid. You had the labor.
That's right.
And so here we are today. Still, we're punching holes in it, Tina.
Yeah.
It's a lie. It's a big lie.
It's all a big lie. And the lie covers up self-serving interests.
Right.
And so when we want to make actionable spiritual truth in our own lives, be willing and courageous to turn within and ask yourself, whether you're arguing with someone, your mate, your friend, your whomever, in the midst of all of that, is there a part of me that is engaged in a self-serving agenda to the point that I am willing to not tell myself the truth in order to win?
Right.
Be willing to look at ourselves in that way, because when we start to look at ourselves and embrace all that we see so that we can use it to change, then the lies that are out here, we will not tolerate.
Absolutely.
The only reason we tolerate the external lies is because they give us permission to lie to ourselves.
Right.
When we stop lying to ourselves, when we become accountable to our word and to our vision and to the idea that we are not the thing itself, we are the fly riding the horse. We are not the horse. Life, God, evolution is the horse. Let's realize who we are. Let's do our part. And it starts with telling the truth to ourselves so that we don't have to run, so that we can break ties with the lie that there is something bigger than us and that is capable of failing us.
Right.
It's not true.
Not true. No, it's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And it never compromises nor contradicts itself. It's always working on its own behalf to express itself. And we were created to reflect and reveal and represent what it is in a very powerful way. Now, we could talk forever, Tina, you and I, because we've done it over the years.
I love you. I love you.
I love you too.
This moment
This is great. People,
yeah.
you know what people are doing? They're getting an opportunity to see our relationship over the years.
Yeah.
Over 35, 36 years. Because we would talk for hours all the time.
At this point, you and I don't see each other a lot. So it's like I'm soaking up this moment, because it's the moments you remember taking me to one of my first industry rap parties. You remember that? You took me to one of my first industry rap parties. I mean, we've spent many hours.
Remember, we bought off the theater. Gapi bought off the theater when you were in that movie Grand Canyon.
That's right.
We just bought the whole theater out and went to see
the entire audience was Agape members and my family.
Oh my God, we've had a great incarnation, and you know what? We're just getting started. Before you get off, say something about where they can get your book. I want to, and anything else, any last comments that you feel. We know you're still in Queen Sugar, right? That's still happening. Yeah. And so people tune in. It's a good program. I started DVRing it primarily because of Tina, but then I got caught into it because it was a good program.
It's a good show, isn't it? It's a really good show. Yeah, and, you can follow me across social media at Tina Lippert. In fact, you were talking about victim and victimization. I do hiking videos. You can go to my IG and there are hiking videos. And I did a hiking video just recently on victim and victimization. It's worth listening to. At my website, which is www.tinalippert.com, there are 3 things that you might want to check out. First and foremost, the Little Book of Big Lies is transforming lives. And I say that without any ego attachment to it.
And the forward is pretty good too.
that forward is banging. I'm going to tell you, I can't tell you how many times people have said, I read the forward and knew that I needed to read this book, or knew that I was in the right place. And that's exactly what your forward does. It's a wonderful forward. So the Little Book of Big Lies, On Wednesdays at 6 p.m., we do a Wellness Wednesday. You show up online. It's free right this moment, and it's about community, and it's literally about being able to have a midweek check-in in terms of where you're at, particularly during these times. And then what we're doing, Michael, at the Inner Fitness Project is we are approaching inner fitness the way physical fitness approaches health and wellness.
Right.
We are saying that in 60-minute bites, we can help people exercise, develop a way of being with themselves that over time accumulates into inner health and well-being. And so, we don't want the idea of transformation to be big and cumbersome. You can go to church, and you can go to church and have a physical fitness practice that helps you be healthy. You can go to church and have an inner fitness practice that helps you actually apply the things that you're learning at church and more.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm about in the world. And you gave me an amazing platform foundation, because it is through I was at Agape every Sunday, every Wednesday for decades.
Yeah. No,
And
you were a vibrational centerpiece there. Took all the classes, and as I said at the top of this hour, you actually embodied and then did what you said you were going to do.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
you're a prime example of someone that comes into alignment with the teachings, the principles, the practices, and uses them until those principles use you.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, so yeah, beautiful. Tina, thank you for being with us today. Everyone,
Thank
you
you.
have all the details, the little book of big lies. You want to get that in your library, and then you want to read it, and then you want to practice. And
Reread it.
and
And
reread
reread
it. Very good. So that's Tina Lippert. Tina, I will talk to you later.
I love you.
Love you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. So everyone, that's a sweet Tina Lippert. We called her Tender Loving Tina in the day, and still, she's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful soul. And I want to say a couple of things. One, you can get my app that's now available. You can sign up for the app for free. You can go to michaelbbeckwith.tv, subscribe to the app, then go to the App Store, Beckwith Inspires, MBB. First, we're having another mass meditation that we want everyone to be involved with in order to help continue to change the vibrational structure of the mental atmosphere of the planet. You can go to SIONE earth.com, SIONearth.com, and participate in this mass meditation. Me, Chief Orville Looking Horse, and others will be involved in bringing message, meaning, and meditation. So that's this Saturday at 4 p.m. Pacific time. ZionEarth.com, SIONearth.com, SION Earth.com. And obviously, for many of you, we'll see you on Sunday at agapelive.com for one of the three services or two of the three services. Meditation service begins at 6:45 a.m. Pacific time. The next service, meditation, is at 8:30. The service is at 9. The next service, meditation service, is at 11 a.m. Service is at 11:30. That's all Pacific time, agapelive.com. Peace and richest blessings to all of you. Thank you for tuning in. Someone said, I wish this was recorded. It is. It's going to be right here on my page shortly, and you can let your friends know about this beautiful conversation that I had with my longtime friend, Tina Lippert. Have a bright day, everyone. I know you will continue to do the inner work necessary for you to realize anything less than beauty about you is a lie. Have a great day.